NAACP.
Can I get your sign? You can keep going, I'll follow you.
Thank you. Our post office! 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 Our post office!
Hi, this is Will James for Uprise RI. We are in downtown Providence, Rhode Island. We are at the post office in Providence, downtown Providence. Protesters are having a socially distanced march. They're going to march around 3 times. It's a symbolic protection of the post office.
There should be somebody halfway down.
This is the building, the John O. Pastore Federal United States Post Office, downtown Providence. Post Office March. There's going to be speakers and a rally after. Signs that say the Postmaster General must resign. So for a little more context, Trump administration officials have been disrupting the function of the post office, an essential government service guaranteed by the Constitution, ahead of a national election that is predicted to have a large increase in mail-in voting due to COVID-19.
office! Our post 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 office!
Our post office! Our post office! Our post office!
Can I get your sign? Protesters reminding each other that the post office is a business, a service, not a business. So protesters are circling the building 3 times.
Our post office! Our post office! Our post office!
Whose post office?
Our post office!
Whose post office?
Our post office!
So the march is pretty much circling the building, so it's kind of hard to tell where it starts and ends, but I believe this is the last lap for some people. Thank you. Oh, actually, there is an empty spot over here. Oh, and here's the front of it. Yep, I recognize this person. So this is going to be the last lap for them, I believe. This is Will James for Uprise RI. We are at a march in support of the post office, an essential government service that is being disrupted by the Trump administration and its officials, such as the Trump-appointed Postmaster General. There's expected to be an increase in mail-in voting due to COVID-19, and disrupting the post office will also disrupt voting. They're saying, hey, hey, ho, ho, the postmaster has got to go.
has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. The postmaster has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. The postmaster has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. The postmaster has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. The postmaster has got to go.
Ho, ho. Ho, ho. The postmaster has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho.
So the march is coming to an end. There's going to be speakers shortly.
I would say you don't
Okay.
We didn't think that we were going to be here today.
I know. Mine is not even.
So City Council President Sabina Matos is here, as well as Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea. So the Secretary of State, if you do not know, is pretty much like the person in charge of voting in Rhode Island. So they may be speaking.
Yep, I did see her. She is around.
Could I point the camera at your sign?
Sure. It's my sister's side, but you know.
Okay.
The other side is clearer.
Oh, okay. She would like you to also.
Yeah, okay, you can do it now.
I think that's clear.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody! Fire it up! Fire it up! Fire it up! Fire it up! Ready to go! Fire it up!
Ready to go!
Fire it up! Ready to go! Fire it up! Ready to go! Fire it up! Ready to go! Fire it up! Ready to go! Fire it up! Ready to go! Excellent! Thank you all for being here. We are waiting for an emergency delivery of some gasoline, which will power our generator and carry our voices a little more easily, a little farther. Until then, we have the wonderful Bill Harley to sing us some songs.
Okay. It's my generator and my microphone and my lack of gas. I have a little song. I have two songs I want to sing. I'm only going to sing one verse of one of them I did this morning, if I can find it. I'm not going to take that personally. There's an election in November. Ding dong, the bells are gonna chime. Let there be no doubt, we'll throw the joy out. Just get my ballot in on time. I learned how to sing this from Betty Mae Fikes in Selma, Alabama. Oh, Turn me round, ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, fighting for democracy. Everybody, I don't let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, fighting for democracy. Ain't gonna let DeJoy turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let DeJoy turn me round. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, fighting for democracy. Ain't gonna let Donald Trump down. Turn me round, yeah. Turn me round, yeah. Turn me round. Ain't gonna let Donald Trump now. Turn me round. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, fighting for democracy. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round. Turn me round, ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, fighting for democracy. Now I'll go find the gas.
We've got some great champions here today, and it is my pleasure to introduce the person who is responsible for being the guardian and protection of our elections, a true champion of democracy, Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea. Come on!
Families Party, all the organizers of today. You know, these are really tough times, and coming together even 6 feet apart with masks invigorates us and animates us, because we are going to turn the tide around this November. Now, I just want to reassure everyone that we did not just discover at the Department of State or at the Board of Elections where the post office is. We actually have known where they are, and we have been actively involved in all of our election mailings with the post office for decades. But what we're finding is confusion in the public. Confusion in the public because we have a president who goes out there and says that somehow mail ballots are different than absentee ballots, that are not safe, that, you know, right in the middle of a pandemic. It is irresponsible and it is wrong. Voting by mail is safe and secure. Then we started hearing this stuff about the organizational changes at the post office. And the people rose up and stopped it. And that's what we're doing here today. We're stopping any kind of tinkering with our men and women in the Postal Service. They want to do the right job. They want to protect our And marching with us today are also some of my fellow elected leaders who have been absolutely invaluable in helping keep things going. Senator Gail. Hold on. I thought I was doing what with my mom voice? Okay, this will be different. Now I have to temper down my mom voice. And also with me today, I know some people who have been really, really helpful as we've looked to protect our democracy. Senator Gail Golden. And also Sabina Matos, President of the Providence City Council, was here. She walked around, we all put the steps together, but had to leave for another event. So I want to make sure that we say thanks to elected officials that are standing up during these very difficult times. But let's make it clear. Every single one of us has a job to do this election, which is to battle the misinformation that is coming out of Washington. We need to, specifically coming out of the White House. Elections in our democracy need to be protected and nurtured. And we do that by exercising our right to vote. Now, we have a September 8th primary, and we can vote early in person. Yes. Yes. At your city or town hall. Anybody who has a mail ballot in their hands at this point has to put it in the mailbox or put it in the drop box at their city or town hall and get it in. And then we have the September 8th primary, and we will be absolutely ready for that. The local boards of canvassers, the Board of Elections, and my office, those three agencies that handle elections, are doing everything they can to make sure that we protect our democracy. Now, anybody here who's able and willing, 16 years of age, and pre-registered or registered to vote can be a poll worker. And I want to make a shout out for that. You can have a bird's eye view right there in person on the most consequential election of the century. So if you're able, health-wise, youth-wise, and everything, please, please, please contact your local board of canvassers, because we need poll workers still. Because in this election, we're going to say you can vote by mail or vote from home. You can vote early in person, or you can actually vote by November 3rd. It's not on November 3rd, you vote by November 3rd. And I want everybody here to make sure that you get all your neighbors, your family members, and let's get this election done in the way that Rhode Islanders expect their government to work for them.
Whose election? Our election! Whose election? Our election! Whose mail ballots? Our mail ballots! Whose mail ballots? Our mail ballots! Our post office! Our post office!
Secretary of State, thank you very much. I just want to add a few more acknowledgments. We also are very fortunate to have with us a representative of Senator Jack Reed's office. Chris, thank you very much, and thank you to Senator Reed for being a champion of the post office. There are two members of our delegation who cannot be here today. That is because they are in Washington voting for the Deliver for America Act. And I want to thank Congressman David Cicilline and Congressman Jim Langevin. Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays these couriers from the swift completion of their appointed rounds. That is the motto of the post office, and that is the motto that has guided them for more than 200 years. It is the post office that put United in United States. They deliver for us every day, and we are here now delivering for them, delivering our voices. And it is now my pleasure to introduce our next voice, representative of PROVX, Brooklyn Toussaint. Come on down.
Trying to stay COVID safe, you know. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming out and making this, impactful. I do want to start off, I got a brand new job a couple days ago canvassing for Brianna Henry's, running for state rep in District 1. And as I was canvassing for her, I was realizing that most of the individuals I was speaking to were our older individuals who are more at risk for this this virus that is going around, known as COVID-19. And I thought about how they're literally trying to silence an entire group of people with shutting down the USPS, privatizing it, and making sure that their voice is not heard. People who have been accustomed to voting by mail for years and years and years. So they don't even know where to get updates on if this was to change. Their voice would just, become non-existent. And I thought about how messed up that is, and how nobody's really talking about it. And when we found out this event was happening, we had to come out and make sure our voice was heard as well. Because personally, I try to support as many small businesses as I can. Every single month, most of everything I use comes from a small business. And all of the small businesses that I support are from Black, Indigenous, people of color. And shutting down the USPS or privatizing it would make it so that these prices would become so expensive that I would only have to buy local, and I wouldn't be able to support those small businesses anymore. Because there aren't enough small businesses that are doing what I need or providing what I need here, which is obviously why I'm buying it and getting it shipped to me. And I need that to continue. I also want to, stress how in this election year, there's 4 million 17-year-olds that turned 18 that now have the right to vote this election. That's our youth voice, that's our youth count, and I don't know about you guys, but when I was 17, just turned 18, I was still living with my parents. So that's putting, most of those kids that have now earned that right to vote, they're probably in households where they're not really being allowed to come out, to make sure that they're staying COVID safe. And privatizing and shutting down the USPS is only going to make that harder for now 2 major groups to make their voice heard in this election if they cannot vote by mail. A lot of what I'm realizing is that, we like to protest things, but we don't think about how we can prevent things from happening, so we don't even have to protest them anyway. And that comes from putting pressure on our politicians, making sure that when they vote, they have us in mind because it's us that they serve and represent. Them even voting to privatize or shut down the USPS, both parties, it doesn't make any sense because they're not representing us. They don't have our best interest because they don't represent us. And I think it's time for us to realize that and understand that the power of the people is the greatest power, and that we need to keep it alive. We need to keep making our voice heard. And we need to keep proving to them that we're never going to be silenced, and that we're always going to advocate, and that we're going to get into people's faces. We're going to make sure that our issues are being heard because they affect us the most. They can't make decisions for us and claim that they're representing us if they're not listening to us. So it's time to raise our voices, save the USPS, and get that Postmaster General out of here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our next speaker is Indira Alves of PSL.
Almost there. Peace. My name is Indira, and I'm an organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I am also an affiliate with the Abolition Coalition. Just yesterday, the Postmaster General testified in front of Congress about the removal of mailboxes and mail sorting machines across the country. It's not just about voting in this year's presidential elections or beginning with Trump. Yes, this is a new tactic of the Trump administration to suppress voting rights, but this isn't anything new that we have not seen historically. Racist and anti-workers always had requirements for voting, like literacy skills, ID requirements, or even limiting access to accessible voting areas in rural areas. Or simply the lack of voting booths that create long delays and force working people to make a decision. Exercise your basic democratic right to vote, or miss and lose critical wages. We know and we must clearly state that the demand to save USPS and to fully fund it is a basic democratic demand. As a federal agency, the Postal Service is required to service all homes, including areas that private shipping companies refuse to service because it is not as profitable. Working class people in all areas across the country rely on the post office for sending and receiving mail at an affordable rate, which includes getting access to life-saving medication, communicating to loved ones who are incarcerated, and much more. We are told, while politicians in Congress are working to gut the post office, they make a claim that America is the pinnacle of democracy. We've heard the same story too many times. This abstract notion of democracy has been used to justify war after war. But how can we be the most advanced democracy when so many millions of people are disenfranchised and are unable to exercise their most basic democratic right to vote? But we must also understand this goes beyond voting. In 1970, almost 200,000 Postal Service workers went on strike and won the right to collectively bargain over wages, benefits, and working conditions. They immediately won improvements in all areas. The Postal Service is the single largest source of union jobs in the United States. They nearly employ 220,000 union workers, 21% of which are black, 37% of which are women. As many of us here know, unions empower us to come together as workers and to fight for justice on the job. It attempts to rebalance the immense power that our employer has over us. It gives us a voice. As a result of this major strike and unionization effort, the Postal Service was reorganized by the federal government to operate like a corporation, facing heavy restrictions that even the most notorious big businesses chains and shipping companies would not face. At the same time, the Postal Service would not receive taxpayer funding. This operation should be recognized for what it is: a corporate scheme backed by both major parties and their corporate funders to intentionally bankrupt the post office. In fact, private shipping competitors UPS and FedEx spent tens of millions of dollars lobbying Congress to gut the federal agency. In 2006, the Bush administration signed the Postal Accountability Act and Enhancement Act, requiring USPS to pre-fund 75 years of future retiree benefits, meaning benefits for workers that aren't even born yet, or children that do not exist. This required them to set aside $110 billion, and as a result, they have seen no profit since 2006. This act was passed by an overwhelming majority of Congress on both sides of the political aisle, both Democrat and Republican, 410 in favor and 22 opposed. One of those senators who voted for that favor was Joe Biden. This law laid the groundwork for the new heightened attack on the Postal Service in attempts to privatize it, facing job and service cuts year after year. So why is it that an essential service like the post office being mandated to basically go bankrupt when it's a well-known fact that companies like Amazon do not even provide basic benefits to their employees? The 2006 law also mandated that the Postal Service could not increase their prices by more than a couple cents a year, regardless of inflation or growth. With inadequate federal funding, this was by design to destroy the post office by both major parties who overwhelmingly supported the bill and both advocated that it would be better privatized because it's a drain on the country. Drain on who? Drain on the private corporations like UPS and FedEx who spent $42 million lobbying those same politicians who are attacking this essential service? It is projected that in 2023, they will still be able to deliver 45% of Amazon shipments throughout the country. The same business that Jeff Bezos and other billionaires were able to make $600 billion richer during just the first few months of the pandemic, where most people couldn't and still cannot afford to pay their rent, afford COVID testing, or basic necessities. They achieve gains while we lose our jobs, and the government is readily available to bail them out while we suffer. So I ask, is the Postal Service really a drain on this country like politicians want us to believe? It is an essential service that requires a service to every community. Without the Postal Service, private companies will not deliver to companies that they deem unprofitable and jack up prices. The Postal Service is the largest unionized employer in the United States. They are the most racially diverse compared to the rest of the U.S. labor force. In 18 states, women make up more than half of the workplace. You would think that this is the labor force that would be supported. Instead, thousands of mailboxes are being removed and they are under constant threat. Today, Trump and the Republican Congress, instead of providing any relief other than a single $1,200 check, is devoting their time and their resources rejecting any new relief bill if it includes the USPS. The economic system leaves no stone unturned when it comes to making another dime. That is why I'm out here today and to demand an end of a tax on the Postal Service. That's why I'm a socialist and I believe the right to every job should be a human right and not by under constant attack by the rich. Before I leave, I just want to end off with the chant. Recognized because of the mask. When workers' rights are under
It is my pleasure to now introduce our next speaker, a man familiar to many of you. I really want to again thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank the support that this walk has gotten from many people. And again, I want to give a special shout out and thank you that Rhode Island is fortunate. We have a congressional delegation that all four of them, there may only be four, but they are four loud and strong, and they are fighting on our side for the post office. Again, I thank you to Senator Whitehouse, Senator Reed, Congressman Cicilline, and Congressman Langevin. Thank you, and thank you. My pleasure to now introduce the local president of the NAACP and a champion of voter rights and civil rights and equal rights and everything that is just and right, Mr. Jim Vincent.
Bon dia, bonjour, buenos dias, good morning, each and every one of you.
David!
And I have a chant. The joy must go. 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 We need to knock him down, return to sender. Return to sender. This man of privilege is not going to be allowed with his friends to privatize the most popular and the most diverse federal agency in government. We are not going to stand for it, are we? No! Are we? No! Ever? No! Never! Never! We are here today at a very critical point in our history. I'm here to tell you that the NAACP, through our Legal Defense Fund, is suing the federal government. We are suing democracy when you try to hurt American citizens by saying blatantly that I guess if we slow it down a little bit, take some money away, there will be universal voting? When you blatantly, no! He doesn't know the difference between a mail ballot and an absentee ballot. I'm not even going to say who I'm talking about. It's the same. It's the same. And we are here because of this blatant disrespect of democracy. People should be trying to increase democracy, not trying to decrease it. Right? Increase it, not decrease it. We are suing them because they have blatantly disregarded their own procedures. No public hearings, no internal review, nothing. They're taking out sorting machines and mailboxes willy-nilly. There's no process. So because of that, we are suing the federal government. NAACP is suing. It's suing the federal government. And yet, in their scheme to privatize the most popular and most diverse federal agency, they forgot something. There's a lot of people from coast to coast that are collateral damage in all of this, because when you slow the post office procedures down, guess what? People can't get prescription drugs. People can't pay their bills on time. People on fixed income, senior citizens, including my fellow baby boomers out there, which is, I guess that's redundant. But anyway, senior citizens. She caught it. We want to make sure that we do not have a situation where we have, in a pandemic, people dying because they cannot get prescription drugs on time. To add insult to injury. Right? The joy must go! The joy must go! The joy must go! We are not collateral damage. We are not collateral damage. We are not collateral damage. Not today, not yesterday, not any day. And so what I'm here to say is that this is affecting everybody in our democracy, and we're not going to stand for it. We're going to stand up, we're going to stand tall, we're going to do whatever we have to do to make sure that nobody steals our democracy. But we're here today, each and every one of us. I'm proud of all the people that are here. You are here because you want to be heard, and you need to be heard because they're attacking not just you and me and everybody within my voice, but all Americans are under attack. Under attack. So as I close, let's say, return to sender. Return to sender. Return to sender. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jim, and that is great news, and good luck on the lawsuit. Thank you for that fight, because we need to fight on every single front that there is. It's now my pleasure to introduce the man in the straw hat, an advocate, a community advocate who focuses on racial justice and housing equality, Kyle Bennett.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. My name's Kyle Bennett. I'd like to thank Gary, Marty, all the organizers that have been here and working behind the scenes to make today possible. All of the speakers, particularly our members of the youth delegation, we appreciate you. We follow you. And all of you who've taken time out of your day to come out and help save our post office, but more importantly, save our U.S. postal system. Give yourselves a round of applause. We need you. Today, for just a second, as we stand here together, I'd like to talk about making America great again. 4 years ago, that was the campaign slogan from some guy at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. 4 years ago, I think what was going through his mind at the time, when was America so great, General? And he personally hand-delivered letters to people in his community because the service and sacrifice meant that much to him? Was it the time when other great Americans like Abraham Lincoln, or one of my favorites, Sherman Hemsley, was a short-timer at the Postal Service, delivering that if you show up every day, if you deliver the mail, all of it, every day, by the time you get to retirement, that the postal system will have your back. You will have a pension and a benefit package that will see you through retirement. Now, I wonder if that was the type of greatness they sought when they said, let's make America great again. Or was it the time when it was commonplace for groups of white men to track down black men and kill them by hanging? Was it the time when the plantation owner snuck into the living quarters of the people they had enslaved and raped black women? Was that the time they sought to go back to? Or was it the time when a white woman could walk across the street and claim that a young black boy called her out of her name or whistled to her from across the street and galvanized the community of angry mobsters to come after this young boy and beat him to a pulp? Is that the kind of greatness that they're talking about? Because that's not America. That's not America, but it is part of our past. It is part of the dark days of American history. And I would argue today that America is great already, that America has always been great, in spite of our dark past. I would argue today that America has never been greater than it is today. The fact that we're gathered here, assembled under the First Amendment protection of freedom of speech and the right to protest, the right to gather, it makes America great. And this is why America's great, not because of those other things. I argue that America's great because our senior citizens, as has already been spoken, our fastest growing demographic, have stood together and said we will not tolerate the disassembly of our postal system. We will not lose the promise that America's made to us, that you will send our payments, our Social Security and our pension checks on time, that you will not deliver our medications on time, that you will not deliver our ballots on time. Our senior citizens have stood up. The members of the armed forces and our veterans have also stood up. And they said that we
We've done this so that America will remain great and that everybody else can be better. We will not stand idly by while this system of attack is purposely delivered upon our democracy. I wonder what type of greatness was being considered when they used the phrase, "Make America Great Again." Stand up, organize, and assemble, and they lead the way. They lead the way to making America great again. I have to say, is this the type of America that they sought out when they said, "Make America Great Again"? It's interesting that as we stand here today, underneath General Burnside, and we think about where he came from. General Burnside was from South Carolina. His father was a slave owner. He was a general in the American Revolutionary War. His father sold his plantation, freed his slaves, and moved to Indiana. He didn't do that because he wanted the old America, the old colonial way, the old to be great again. He did that because he recognized that change had to come. He did that because he recognized that humanity was not something we could quantify based on the color of our skin. He did that because he wanted his family and his country to be great. When General Burnside led efforts in North Carolina and Tennessee, he didn't do that in support of slavery. He did that in opposition to slavery. So as we stand here protecting and fighting for our post office, we stand here under men who are not whole and not imperfect, without a doubt. They are imperfect, as we all are. But we do that in concert with the spirit of making and keeping America great. We do that to ensure that our way of life, our democracy, continues. America is all of that and so much more. America is a place where democracy reigns, but dialogue rules. We don't always agree, but we have to engage in the dialogue. And that's what makes America great. The spirit of dialogue, the spirit of cooperation. I may not win every day. I may not be part of every demographic that matters to every person in this country. But just as General Burnside and his family faced a civil war, this is a country of immigrants. This is a country that was founded on the principle of immigration. How can we now turn our backs on the very people that made us who we are? We're also a country of Native Americans. How can we not give them the support that they deserve? How can we not entitle them and reappropriate the lands that they need access to, the water systems that they need to survive? How can we give them land and tell them that they have a government and then still rule over a sovereignty? That's not American. We've got to get back to what America means. And I'll tell you, we're going to start today by reclaiming our postal system. We're going to start today by reclaiming our postal system. We're going to start today by reclaiming our postal system. We're going to vote. We're going to vote on September 8th. Whether it's in person, early in person, mail ballot, we're going to vote. But I'll tell you what, that's not enough. We've got to challenge every single person we know to do the same. Regardless of political persuasion, regardless of ideology, they must vote, and they must vote for America. We've got to preserve this way of life, or guess what? In 4 more years, this could all be gone. The freedoms that you enjoy today could be no more. Vote on September 8th. Vote on November 3rd. Bring your family and friends and everybody you know, tell them they must vote, and they must vote American. Thank you.
Kyle, thank you very much. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming out today. If you would like to stay engaged after we have ended, please, keeping 6 feet apart from everybody, please come over to the table and we will get your name and contact information, and we will continue to work together, because today is just the beginning of the fight. And I want to thank and Rick Brooks, who's not able to be with us today. A whole bunch of text messages, phone calls, and Zoom meetings took place very quickly over the past week to make this happen. And I want to thank the Working Families Party, the NAACP, the Cranston Action Network. Those were our local sponsors, and then some organizations that are behind today nationally, because we are here today and there are groups like us across the nation standing up for the post office today, and that's Move On and the SEIU. I also want to give a special thank you to Bill Harley for the sound system, the generator, and the gasoline, and for an immortal song about black socks. So, one last time. Fired up!
Ready to go!
Fired up!
Ready to go!
Fired up!
Ready to go!
Now let's go vote!
Let's go vote!
Hi, this is Will James for Upriser I. We are in downtown Providence, Rhode Island. There was a march around the post office 3 times. People are gathered today to say that they are opposed to Trump administration plans and actions they have already taken that have disrupted the post office. Some people noting that Joe Biden voted for a bill that was maybe not in favor of the post office in the, I believe, 70s.
All's well that ends well.
Yes, thank you so much.
I was happy to do it. I just had to sit here.
Hey, Gary!
Ballots, you know.
Yeah, we got our union needs to come. But I have no clue how to do a
Folks, if you have one of our postcards,
We're gonna maybe get one more 2 interviews or such, maybe get some more signs, and then we'll wrap up.
you have pens if you want to individualize it. You don't need to. Those postcards are ready. 100 postcards from 100 Rhode Islanders. Thank you.
The organizer just announced that 100 people had signed a postcard, which asks the board of the USPS to fire DeJoy, the Postmaster General appointed by Trump. Hey, I wanted to know if I could ask you some questions, because I literally just one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it's just like, can I point it at you? Yeah. So I wonder if, as this movement for Black Lives started, did you predict that the post office was going to be something that would be part of that? Like how, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the movement for Black Lives, like BLM, means a lot of different things to different people. At least, you know, where I am ideologically in the organizations that I work with, like Black liberation and self-determination has always been on the forefront, specifically worker struggle, right? So historically, like, yeah, there was a strike in 1970 and over 200,000 postal workers. You know, it's the most racially diverse workforce in the United States. So, I mean, it shouldn't be surprising, right? If we just know our history and we don't, like, listen to these politicians that are sanitizing their involvement. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. That was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so I think we're going to wrap up. This is Will James for Upriser I. March in support of the post office has been disrupted by Trump's administration officials. Some speakers noted that Democrats in the past have voted for bills which perhaps did not increase the function of the post office. Most people, though, almost everyone, encouraging people to vote likely for Joe Biden. I don't think people said it specifically, but it's strongly implied. Thank you to our Patreon supporters.